What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's happening with Tesla spying the overall market. I'm going to break down some big news that came out involving the tariffs that were imposed yesterday, which you should be watching for as time goes on for the markets. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 30 in total, and the offer ends very soon at the end of March. So what's happening so far when it comes to Tesla and these markets? Just know that right now I'm seeing a little bit of weakness, at least for the share price. We're trying to break through this yellow trend line. Instead of breaking through this, we are showing some weakness right now, especially after the news that just came out. So the market was pushing upon the rumors that the tariffs were going to be delayed. They weren't going to be coming out. It was pushing because of the news about the PCE data being decent. It was all aligned with expectations, showing signs that inflation has been once again not as bad as what some people were expecting it to be like. And then on top of that, we had some news that came out about Apple's earnings. The market really liked that. That's why we ended up seeing, a big increase. So that's the reason why we saw a big increase in the share price of Apple and factors like that. And I just wanted to mention that there's important reasons for this. So this is what was helping Tesla push a little bit. And then what happened was as time went on, the market was in the green. The SPY was near all-time highs. The QQQ was not too far from all-time highs. Then the White House press secretary came out and announced that Donald Trump is going to be imposing tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. As soon as that news came out, right, the market dumped, and we saw this big sell-off that happened towards the end of the day. Even during the after hours, the market continued to sell off more, and even Tesla is in a critical place right now. So that's a recap of what happened on Friday. What are these tariffs basically looking like? Donald Trump has made it very clear that he not only signed an order, but the tariffs are going to be affecting not only the US, but it's going to be affecting all these different countries. So for the way things are going, we're looking at 25% tariffs on Canada. It's not 25% for everything. For some things such as petroleum and natural gas, it's 10%. And then for Mexico, it's about 25% on the majority of goods. And then for China, it's about 10%. So that's what we're looking at so far. Right now, we're mainly focused on Canada and Mexico, and it's very important to kind of go over what this means, at least for us moving forward, because there's some news that these countries are now retaliating. So let's break down what this means for us. I want to give you guys a quick reminder about how this is going to be looking. As a quick reminder, Canada, Mexico, and China make up nearly half of all US trade. It's important to remember that although each of them make up a small percentage of our imports, it's important to know that when you combine them together, that's almost half of all of our trade in total. So it's very important. 70% of the oil in the Midwest comes from Canada and Mexico. So we are very dependent on them for that. We depend on Canada for petroleum, for car production, both Canada and Mexico. And then for other factors such as like phones and computers, we depend a lot on China. So you have to remember that. So the tariffs are going to likely cause costs to go up by about $3,000 per vehicle, at least when it comes to production. At least for Canada and Mexico. And then on top of this, we depend a lot on Mexico for produce. So when it comes to other factors like groceries, grocery prices can start going up. So could the price of gas in some areas. Car production, car prices, those could also go up. So please remember that, especially for produce, we depend on Mexico a lot because of their imports. Out of all imports, about 60% of US vegetable imports come from Mexico, and nearly half of all fruit and nut imports also come from there as well. So we're very dependent on Mexico and on Canada for certain things such as like petroleum and for food and all these different things. But the thing is, when it comes to our dependency versus theirs, it's very different. So this will affect these different countries as their economies do depend a lot on their exports, but they're more dependent on the U.S. Than the U.S. is on them. So for Canada, for example, out of all their exports, 78% go to the U.S. and about 22% go to the rest of the world. That makes up about 14% of our imports, so it's a little bit smaller. And then for Mexico, 80% of all their exports actually go to the US. So they're very dependent on the US, right? And that only makes up about 15% of the imports out of all the others for the US. Now, for China, it's a little bit different. In China, they actually have about 15% of their exports go to the US and about 85% go to the rest of the world. So they're a little bit more independent. They actually export things to like different countries all over the world. But in total, here's the important thing. In total, 14% of our imports come from Canada, 15% from Mexico, 14% from China. So this just shows when you combine them together, that's almost half of all of our imports. That is worth trillions. So please keep that in mind every single year. So how is this going to affect things? As you guys know, we're dependent on these countries. So the costs for crude petroleum, for oil, will go up to some extent. Refined petroleum, natural gas will go up. Car prices could go up. All kinds of different things from appliances. This could affect them. The things that we depend on China for semiconductors. All these things could start to increase in price as a result of these tariffs. Now, why on earth is Trump trying to do this? Well, he argues that there is a trade deficit and that this will help make things more fair. He also argues that this is going to help bring in a lot more revenue. And then the government could use that to reinvest into the US, offset things, lower taxes. He wants to essentially get rid of the federal income tax, if not lower it to a large extent. That is going to be debatable. We don't know the full extent about all of this, though. I don't know how much revenue the government will truly make because countries could be de-incentivized to trade as much with the U.S. So we don't know how much trade will still occur. We don't know, the full extent of their retaliatory measures. So we have to look at factors just like that. Okay. So what's happening with this? There's good and there's bad. The good is this could help, the US government make more revenue. This could help them try to offset some of the losses that are going to come. This could be used for negotiation. But then for the short term, there's going to be a lot of pain coming. And, whether it's worth it or not is just to be determined. It might not be worth it completely. It just may not be. It may be. It's up to you guys to decide. But for the short term, there's four main things to remember. Number one, this is going to be negative for our GDP. GDP may decrease by 0.4% or so. So it's going to be a little negative in terms of that. Inflation is going to start to go up, most likely, yes, because of the fact that supply chains could get disrupted, especially because these countries could be de-incentivized to trade as much with the US, and then they could also try to retaliate. Okay, so that's the first thing to really remember. And then on top of this, other countries may also increase tariffs back on the US. And that's what I warned you guys about this on Friday, and that's already starting to happen. Canada is now imposing 25% tariffs on some US goods. So they just made the announcement. We had Justin Trudeau come out. He said that Canada is going to be increasing tariffs to 25%, affecting 155 billion Canadian dollars worth of goods, or 106 billion dollars worth of them. This is American goods ranging from beer to wine to household appliances and other sporting goods. So Canada is now trying to increase tariffs back on the US, which is thus going to cause prices to go up even more. So it's a war that's going on with all these different countries fighting over this. Now Mexico has come out and they're saying the same thing. They want to also increase tariffs on the US. They made this announcement. We're not entirely sure about exactly when they're going to do it or what the plan is, but they said very soon that they are once again planning to form some deals and possibly even retaliate. So it's very important. So what does this mean for us for the short term? This is going to be affecting U.S. businesses. They're more incentivized to try to trade more or produce more in the U.S. But at the same time, what's worth mentioning about all of this is the fact that with this going on, we have to watch and see how this affects us. We're going to be listening to see what else these countries want to do. U.S. businesses may have more expenses, causing our prices to go up here, and this may cause more bankruptcies and factors like this. This is going to cause our GDP to slow a bit. Inflation is going to go up, and then those are the cons. Can the U.S. government make enough revenue to offset all of this? We'll have to wait and see. Will the government really help to reduce taxes a lot? Will they be able to do that? We'll just have to wait and see if this is worth it or not. But I'm trying to be very unbiased when I say that. So it's been pretty crazy. How does this affect Tesla? Well, Tesla is dependent on China for producing a lot of its parts, so this will cause costs to start going up. But if anything, in Tesla, Elon Musk did mention a plan about how they could try to change things up a little bit by trying to use a lot more or take advantage of the Fremont Gigafactory more for American, American imports and things like that. Take advantage of the American production a lot more to try to offset the risk instead of having to go just from China. Musk mentioned that, but it's not a guarantee yet. We don't know what the true plan is, so we'll see what Tesla tries to announce. And if anything, despite that, I still think that because of how big the Giga Shanghai is and how much Tesla uses it, it's inevitable that we're going to still have to depend on it for a large extent. So of course, this is going to negatively affect Tesla and other companies, even if they try to kind of like change the way in which they structure things. But like I said before, it's a little bit more negative news. So there's some news coming out that in Fremont, California, they're starting to manufactured the Juniper Model Y refresh. That's a good piece of news, at least for them moving forward. Hopefully, this helps their sales go up, and I think it's very awesome. I think that this is going to help them to larger extents, and hopefully Tesla can help offset some of the changes that come with these new policy changes. With that being said, don't forget that tomorrow is going to be Monday, February 3rd. At 9:45 a.m., we have the S&P Global Manufacturing PMI, and at 10 o'clock a.m., we have the ISM manufacturing numbers coming out, giving us more insights on prices, new orders, and etc. So get ready for some volatility at 9:45 and 10 a.m. Don't forget that tomorrow we have Palantir announcing earnings alongside PayPal and AMD and Alphabet on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we have Uber, Walt Disney, and Ford. And on Thursday, we have Amazon and a couple more announcing their earnings, so get ready for that. The fear and greed index is currently at neutral, stuck in the middle. Momentum has a little bit of fear that's developing, so we'll see how that shifts. And then the put to call option ratio is at greed right now. That's making up the majority of sentiment as it's going up, as more puts are being bought. The volatility is stuck in the middle, so give it some time. With that being said, as far as Tesla's going, Guggenheim gave Tesla a sell rating, so did UBS. But there's other companies such as Piper Sandler or Morgan Stanley who are very bullish on Tesla. So they're still, they have different opinions. Tesla for the short term, and saw its price ratio go up a little bit after earnings. This is a good sign that Tesla could try to show some strength, but we have to be very careful, at least moving forward. Mondays tend to be green about 53% of the time, but we'll see how this news affects us. So, anyways, that's enough about all this news, guys. I just want to say that with the news that's come out that Trump is imposing more tariffs on these countries, this will cause some short-term pain, in the words of Elon Musk and Trump. They both said that. I went over the sources on my video from Friday, so if you guys could go back to that video, you guys can see me citing the sources. But in this case, I'm just gonna, make it very, very simple. There's gonna be short-term pain. The market's gonna start to price that in, which is why there's some downside. But for the long term, we'll see if this ends up benefiting Tesla and the others or not. For now, there's a bit of a downtrend on Tesla. We were trying to break through this yellow trend line of resistance. There were instances where we broke through this and just got a rejection back down. And in this case, for Tesla, we're starting to reject a bit. Unless Tesla could hold above 405, if we hold 405, this could start to push for essentially 410 to 414 again. So watch 405, 410, and 414 as our resistances. Watch this trend line of support very close to this 402 area. If it doesn't hold, I'm looking for a dip closer to about 398, then back down towards 390. So with this pump and dump move for Tesla, this is going to be at risk of dipping towards the 390s. 398 and 395 are going to be probable factors, so please be very careful. And I see a risk of us dipping a little bit more. We might be looking for more downside on Tesla because we got this big red bar of rejection, and the whole market may start to come down a bit because of the fact that now Canada wants to impose more tariffs on the US. So look for a little bit more downside as the most likely possibility. If you're bullish, you want to see us reclaim this 50 EMA to start breaking out for the 400s. If we get back above 405, we're bullish. If we're bearish, you want to see us hold above this yellow trend line below 402. We're going to be at risk of coming back down towards 390 or so. The bearish case looks a little bit more probable as Tesla's starting to reject here, and there's a lot of negative news coming out, so it might start to dip. So I favor downside a little bit more for Tesla in all honesty, so please be careful and watch your levels just to be safe. Now, how about for SPY? Well, on the daily chart, SPY is just barely holding its 20 EMA right now, but with Canada announced that they just imposed more tariffs, this is a little bit more negative news. We also did not show any signs of a bounce yet, so this is looking very heavy, and it still technically favors the downside move a little bit more. If we're bullish on SPY, I want to see it reclaim 600 and 603 to start bouncing. If we're bullish on SPY, you want to break past 600 and 603. If we're bearish and we can't hold above 600, look for 598 as our first support. That's the 20 EMA on the daily chart. If that does not hold us, we could be dumping all the way down towards 595-ish, close to our 200 EMA. These are going to be our levels to watch for, but I just want to say that this is looking a bit more probable, a little bit of a move to the downside towards 594. So please keep that in mind. I think SPY is looking a little bit more bearish. If we can't hold 598, expect us to dip towards the 594s. We'll see if that holds us. If it doesn't, then we could be looking for 590, then 584 as our supports. We have a gap to fill all the way down there. This looks like a double top setup. And I also want to mention that historically, every time SPY has hit the 610 area or 608 to 610, we've rejected every single time so far. This is another technical move, so it might lead to a little bit more downside. For NQ or the QQQ first, just know that if we reclaim 523, we're looking for a bounce up to about 525. Okay, that's like the bullish case, just like this. The bearish case would be we don't hold support and we just start dipping closer to about the 518 area. And if it doesn't hold, we're looking for a dip to about 515. I'm favoring this a little bit more, us to retest 515. If it doesn't hold, then yes, we dip to like 510 and 507. So we'll see if that ends up being the case or not. So just keep that in mind. For the Russell 2000, we're hitting resistance right over here. We need to reclaim 226 to bounce. If we can't, we could be dumping back down towards 224 or below. So I think the odds favor this might be dipping closer to about 224. Unfortunately, it looks bearish right here. Big rejection, especially during the after hours. The Russell looks a bit more bearish for 224 or below. For ES, we're looking a little bit weaker right here. We're looking for support right here at 59.50. If that doesn't hold us, we could be dipping down to about 60, to much lower levels. Actually, ES is gapping down right now. Sorry about that, guys. We actually gapped down pretty hard. This is going to likely cause the market to gap down. So we're losing support right now. We're going to be watching this trend line to see if it holds. ES is looking bearish. We're looking for the 59.50s now. If it doesn't hold us, we could be dipping even more. So please be careful, guys. There's going to likely be a big drop. There's a big gap forming on ES. I think it just opened like a minute or a couple of minutes after I started recording this video. So it was very tricky. But like I said before, the risk of downside is still there. NQ is also dumping. We're at 21,000 flat. If it doesn't hold us, we could be dipping even more. On Bitcoin, we're on a bit of a downtrend right now. We have to see if 95,000 holds. If it doesn't hold, we could be dumping even more. If it does hold, we could consolidate between 98,000 and 95,000, so it could lead to more downside. I think Nvidia is going to be dumping to about the 117 area. If it doesn't hold, we're looking for 115 or below. For Tesla, we look a little bit more bearish. Like I said before, we're looking for 400, then eventually 395, and then 390. On Aapl, we're technically on a downtrend. Aapl also has the bad news that came out. I think that if we can't hold 233, we're looking for a dump to 230 or below. I think we favor downside, so watch that very closely. I think 230 is likely coming, and we'll see if we bounce. If not, we favor the downside. For Netflix, we're technically trying to uptrend, but I think the market coming down is going to cause a bigger dip. So this could be looking for basically the 960s. That's going to be very, very important for us to be looking for. So watch 970 if it holds. If not, we could be dipping over even more. So please be very, very mindful of that. So with that being said, it's very important for us to give this some time to develop. But I think that we're going to be testing 970 flats, and then this could be dipping even more from here. For MSTR, we're looking a little bit weaker. We need to try to reclaim essentially the 340 area. If we can't, there's going to be a risk of us dipping even lower back down towards 330. So please be careful. 330 is likely coming in 325. There's going to be a risk of some downside. Looking at Celsius, we're on a bit of a downtrend right here. We'll see if we can try to hold above 25. If not, we're going to be dumping to about 23.5 or below. For Supermicro, we're rejecting off resistance. If we can't get back above 29.27, we're looking for a dip back down towards the 27.8 area. For Palantir, we want to see if this could hold above 82.5. Otherwise, we're going to be dipping to about 80.05 and 77.16. So watch that very closely. For Rivian, we're on a bit of a downtrend right here. We'll have to see if we could hold 12.5. If not, we could be dumping back down towards 12 flat. So I think this is going to likely continue to downtrend back down towards 12 flat as we see some more bears stepping in. For SoFi, we're on a bit of a downtrend right here. I think that this could be dipping closer to about 15.13 or below. If that fails us, we have this gap to fill, taking us down to 14 flat. AMD is looking bearish. I expect this to fill the gap to about 114, if not start dumping to about the 112s. Looks a little bit more bearish to me. ARM is rejecting. We're looking for essentially 155, then eventually 152.5 as our supports. Coin is dipping to about 287, if not all the way down to about 227, so please be careful. Amazon's at 235. If it doesn't hold, we're looking for 230 flat. I think 233 and 230 are going to likely be tested, so please be very careful, guys. There is that risk of downside to Amazon. For Meta, we're on a bit of a downtrend. We're looking for essentially 676 as our support. I think we dipped to 676, then 670. Microsoft's on a bit of a downtrend. We're going to be looking for support right here at 412. If that fails us, we're looking for 405 as our target. Google's dipping. We're looking for 202, then eventually 200 flats. I think the tariffs are pretty negative. GME is looking bearish. We're looking for 25 or below, likely coming. AMC is going to be dumping to 3 flat. DJT is kind of flat right here. It might start dipping towards 30, so I'm expecting some downside all around. The VIX is looking bullish. If we hold above 16.68, we're looking for a push for the 18s. The VIX is likely going to get a breakout. The 10-year and the dollar are also looking bullish. Right now, I think the dollar is taking off, which is bearish for the markets because of the inflationary risks. With that being said, guys, get ready for some blood. I think the market's expecting some downside moves. Tesla might be dipping back down towards below our trend line, back down to 400 and eventually the 390 area. So be careful, guys. I'm simply just giving you guys an honest assessment and a warning based off what I'm seeing. So I thank you for listening. Have a good one. Stay strong no matter what, guys. The future is still very bright despite this news, and we'll see how things end up going. I thank you for listening. I appreciate you guys so much, and peace out.